record and a very high productivity record in all jobs for which they are qualified, we are not being aggressive enough to make sure that everybody has a chance to get into the workforce. Hillary will do that. That's important. Take all these populations. Just one more. There's still too many young people in prison for nonviolent offenses that ought to be out here in the workforce. Just think, it cost Americans an average of $64,000 to keep somebody in the penitentiary. How many kids can you educate in the Las Cruces school system for $64,000? By the way, her education program is good. She thinks we ought to spend limited federal dollars on not quite so much testing and rulemaking and more on helping teachers be better teachers, principals be better principals, schools with the culture of the kids are educated. Well, look, you can't just open the prison doors to people who've been kept in prison. You've got to get them education, training, job placement, and they can't be discriminated against when they apply for a job. We need these young people back, making America stronger so we can all rise together. Now, if you do the right things with investment and the private economy starts growing again too, and you get all the people back where they can participate, who can possibly participate, then we still have to live together and govern together. One of the reasons it's so important, especially now that the Republican nominee has given us a list of his proposed Supreme Court nominees, is that we not have a right-wing Republican president, a right-wing Republican Congress, and an ideological Supreme Court. We need a Supreme Court that will protect and expand voting rights, not restrict them, protect and expand labor rights, not restrict them, protect and expand women's rights, their rights, and everybody else's rights. If you really believe you can grow together, we have to grow together. We've got to live together. So that's my case for her. She got the right values, the right vision, and the right policies. But you also have to realize that the two things that could keep all these good intentions from coming to bear are continued gridlock in Washington and troubles around the world. And so, you ought to pick the person who's actually done something about this. When Hillary was First Lady, she spearheaded with Senator Kennedy the Children's Health Insurance Program, a lot of others. They are now, it's a big part of Obamacare. There are 8.4 million kids in America with this health insurance. 76% of the Congress voted for it. She always finds a way to convince people to come together. When we were facing a national crisis in children aging out of foster care, she went not to a Democrat, but to a House Republican leader who thought he disagreed with us on everything, but she knew he had adopted children. And she said, I know you don't believe in government, but let me tell you something. These kids are just like your kids, except nobody adopts them. Now people are afraid to adopt non-infant children. And they're afraid to adopt kids with special needs because they don't think they can afford to support them. So you're a Republican. Let's give them a big tax credit for doing it. If they adopt non-infant kids, a bigger one. If they adopt kids with special needs, and give them the support they need to help. And the kids that are going to age out anyway, you cannot throw them on the street. They need job training. They need access to education. They need a living allowance. We don't want people to go on the street. Okay. All I had to do was sign the bill. There was an 80% increase in the adoption of children out of foster care because she always finds a way to make something good happen. And then she becomes a senator from New York, and she works with Senator John McCain on making sure we take care of returning veterans with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress syndrome, and worked with Senator Lindsey Graham to make sure that guardsmen and reservists from New Mexico, when they come home, get the same health care regular veterans do. And there's no disparity because there was no disparity when they were there getting shot at and dodging roadside bombs. And she works with Republicans in New York, small manufacturers and small farmers, because nobody ever tried to help them. And when the Republican head of the Farm Bureau on Long Island, one of our more challenging areas for a Democrat, endorsed him for re-election, the press said, "Joe, I thought you were a Republican." He said, "I thought I was too." "How can you endorse her?" He said, "Look, all these politicians sound great at election time. All I know is I've been trying to help these little farmers hang on to their land a long time, and she has actually done things to help them. I am for her." And he is still for her to this day. So, she becomes Secretary of State. And this is where the third point comes in. You need somebody who knows enough, is responsible enough, and is respected enough to keep us safe and give us the space to grow. And if we set the right example, we can help move the rest of the world from a lot of these tensions. Just remember, I spent a lifetime doing this. Whenever people are working together, good things happen. Whenever they fight all the time, good things don't happen. So sometimes what is good politics is bad for your living arrangements. And she got the sanctions on Iran to try to stop their nuclear program, got China and Russia to go along. Republicans like that. She got the New START treaty ratified in the Senate, which is the only thing that survives our attempt to get along with Mr. Putin. It makes nuclear exchanges with Russia much less likely. And it required 67 votes in the U.S. Senate. That's a lot of Republicans. She got them. And she flew overnight from Asia to go to Egypt when the Muslim Brotherhood president was there, and together they agreed on a plan that stopped the shooting war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Republicans like that a lot. But she also tripled the number of lives we were saving of children, mostly in Africa, who had AIDS, simply by going to generic drugs. And that's what we ought to do in America. We need to drive down the cost of prescription drugs in America like she did overseas. So when Hillary left office, the approval of the United States was 20 points higher than it was the day she took office as Secretary of State. There's a reason for that. She always makes something good happen. And people know she's on the level. One day a young military officer came up to me in the Congress. I was there after I left the White House testifying on a public health issue. And this young guy came up and introduced himself and he said, "You don't know me, Mr. President, but I represent the Pentagon in Congress. And as you know, your wife's on the Armed Services Committee. I just thought you might like to know that over there we think she knows more and cares more about our issues and our people than anybody else in the Congress in either party." And he said, "I know she doesn't agree with us on everything, but not one time, not even once, has she ever taken a cheap shot. Has she ever done anything just to get a headline on it? She's just always on the level." Now, so that brings me to the final point. If all this is true, why do all these surveys say people have reservations about her? Because it's all true. Because it's all true. Keep in mind, if everybody believed in government, the Republican Party would be out of business today. Right? That's their whole argument. The government would mess up a two-car parade. If everybody believed in the integrity and impact of public service, that would be so boring. What would the political press do? I mean, you're laughing, but let me take you back in time. I've always liked Ross Cruz since I first came here in the 80s to help inaugurate a new president at New Mexico State who'd been the chancellor at the University of Arkansas. Then I came back in 96. I was the first president since William Howard Taft to come to Las Cruces. Well, when I ran for president in 1992, the American people didn't know me. And I was the longest serving governor in America. I knew the White House very well. I liked, as everybody knows, the first President Bush. We became very close friends, but I liked him back then. But I got a call from the White House saying, we've looked at these surveys, you're the only one who can win. I said, what are you talking about? President Bush is in the mid-70s in approval, and I'm running 5th out of 6 people in the polls. He said, yeah, I know, what's your difference? You've actually done something. You've been a governor. And he said, so we have no choice. We're going to take you out, and we're going to do it early. And the press will believe anything we tell them about Arkansas. We'll create a presumption that you're the story, and you have to go. So when I won in this week, 24 years ago, in California and New Jersey, I was running third in the poll. I got a beautiful headline from one of the San Francisco newspapers saying that Bush and Perot locked in tight race, Clinton not a factor. I got a map that showed I was going to get 9 electoral votes. What happened? When people practice the politics of personal destruction, it works until it doesn't. And once people start thinking about who's going to be the president, who's going to make these decisions, who spent a lifetime serving other people, what's the real score? With tax returns, Clinton 30, Trump 0. What's the real story? With emails, Clinton 30,000, all other secretaries of state 0. People will start adding and thinking, and oh my God, they will realize that they have a chance that they have never had, not just to elect the first woman president, but to elect someone who has only been an elected official or an appointed official for 12 years, but has spent more than 40 years making good things happen for other people. And we need that. Somebody who went out of office just woke up every day saying, wonder what we can do about this problem. Now look, all over the world, you've got stagnant economies, declining middle-class incomes, rising inequality, and declining upward mobility. If you want declining inequality and rising upward mobility, if you want us to grow together, if you want us to live together, if you want somebody who knows that national security is, yes, a tough defense, yes, a smart diplomacy, but it's still bridges, not walls, you got one choice here. And so I speak to you not just as somebody who's had the job and knows something about it, but as somebody you should maybe discount a little of what I say about Hillary, but you also ought to credit it. I would never knowingly put my country at risk. I love this country. I love this country. And I am telling you, I was well qualified to be president in 1992 because I knew what we needed to do. But there is nobody in America, man or woman, as well qualified to be president at this moment when we got